You just got to understand that they want to understand what you're saying before they can do it. So let's just run into the scripture. The Bible says in the book of Proverbs 16:16, and actually verse 16. Let's just do verse 16. It said, how much better to get wisdom than gold, and to get understanding is to be chosen rather than silver. To get wisdom and understanding about this our young adult is better than gold, is better than silver. So we just run right into the question. Anyone can jump in all you want. But what do you think is the main point or the main disconnect between us parents and you children? What is the main disconnect? What don't we understand about your generation? Why is this just this disconnect and no intimacy? You know, we can't see into you. We don't know what you're thinking. We can't even get it. So what is the disconnect? Anybody can jump. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
No,
Yeah,
you're trying
we
to
can
hear
hear you.
me?
Yes.
No, we can hear
We're
you. We can hear you.
formulating our
Okay,
thoughts.
Samuel, let me put you on the spot. Oh, you are
Okay.
formulating your thoughts. Okay, let's formulate.
Yeah.
So, Samuel, let me put you on the spot. What is the main
Okay.
disconnect? What is the, why don't we understand you guys? Because for us, when we grow up, we're told what to do. When your parents tell you, just say yes, sir, yes, ma'am. But for you guys, when we tell you what to do, you're just like, um, can you explain more? I don't even get it. And sometimes you won't do it because you don't get it. So what's the disconnect?
For me, when I was pondering about it, I thought the main disconnect for us is the parents not really understanding where we're coming from.
Right.
I believe a parent and a child, the relationship we have together is one that we should understand, and we should be able to communicate well with each other. Sometimes
Mhm.
it comes across very we might come across as rude to parents, even though we're just trying to explain ourselves, even though we're just trying to, just talk about our feelings. We might come across as rude, and that's just something that is a little bit of a barrier between us and the parents. I was looking at it that a lot of African parents don't really look and understand where the kid is coming from, especially from, like, let's say if we're doing sports, for instance. Now, if I have a
Right.
game of football, they wouldn't really want to go to that game of football. They'd rather you just go to church. They'd rather you just go to wherever they want you to go to. But if it's what I want to do, they wouldn't really want to be for it. So that's a main point of disconnect between parents, African parents anyway, and ourselves, I feel, in my opinion.
You said two words that that kept me laughing. Number one, what you said that is really true is that your generation, you kind of connect with your feelings. Why we
Mm,
connect with our mind, our head, and our heart. But you guys, if you don't feel it, then you don't do it.
mm,
But for us, you don't have to feel it to do it because you are told to do
exactly.
it, and we go ahead. Now, let me tell you something. With my kids, some of them were running tracks, and I would never go to their tracks. I would rather tell somebody to go. You know why? Because I don't want them to be last. I don't know how we
Mm,
feel. So sometimes what you are thinking that what you are thinking that us parents we don't want to do with you guys. For me, it's just that I'm scared. And they do very well. They go to the state level. But for me, it's just like watching my child be beaten, or maybe they will be the last person. So instead of having the heart attack, I rather stay at home. And
mm.
then when they come
No,
back, I said, did it go?
mm.
Is it right? No, it's not. So we're trying to learn how you guys feel. You were going
Yeah.
to say something.
I was gonna say it's just for the moral support. It's for you. It's for them making you feel like, oh, I'm there. I'm supporting you no matter what. Even if I come last, I'm still there with you through it all. Even if I fall over, if I don't complete it, but my
Right.
parents are there to watch me. There's an inner joy that comes in between us when we see our parents are there supporting us on every level. Now we can be little kids and be older and be, grown adults. But when you have your parents there, it's another kind of joy that's in you that can even make you perform even better than what you actually perform at your normal level.
Oh,
So I
oh.
I, I think that's just something that we don't really understand, and maybe it's good that we're getting it out today.
And we take you to church instead. Anybody can jump in because someone is really hitting me hard this time. Any one of you can jump in. So what's
So,
the
mommy, I would
disconnect?
say, well, first and foremost, thank you for having us.
Yes.
I think this is a conversation that's definitely needed.
Mhm.
So your question was, what is the disconnect between parents and children, and why can't they build intimacy? And
Mhm.
I think one of the reasons, or a few of the reasons, is just like maybe like a lack of communication and understanding from one another's perspective. So I think it's more so about being open to hearing what your child says as opposed to just assuming what they mean, or
Mhm.
like asking questions so that we can deepen our understanding. And also on the child side as well, asking questions of your parents. I know sometimes when we ask our parents questions, it can come off one way or the other. Maybe it comes off as either rude or disrespectful, like Samuel said. But I think that's part of building intimacy, is just creating a ground for understanding and open communication. So,
And I want you guys to understand where we parents are coming from. I'm not taking anything away from you guys because I know every parent is listening right now and they need to see your heart. They need to see how you feel about this issue, and it's real as far as you are concerned. But for us, just like I said earlier on, parents, is that in our generations, when our parents tells us anything, I mean, period, they'll say, obey, obey. uh, Before you answer any question, you have to obey. I'm looking for the phrase now. They say obey before complain. Obey before complain. That's the phrase. Obey before complain. So you have to go do it first, and then you come back and complain. And when you are complaining, they say, "Are you talking to me? Is it me you are talking to like that?" So we grew up in a world uh, that was quite different. It's really quite different with you guys, especially those of you who grew up, away from Nigeria in the diaspora. It's just like a different story entirely. Would you say is the culture that you grew up? Because I'm talking about my culture now. Or how can we help really? How can we help to connect back and remove the disconnect? What can we do? What is it that we do that makes you guys get disconnected most of the time?
I think it's a combination of cultural differences as well as age differences or the generational gap. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of times the language that we speak is different. So in communicating, even when we do communicate, there's just a misunderstanding because of, the parents are speaking one language, the children are speaking a different language. And most times no one really wants to understand what the other is saying. I think that for children, it's so important to understand that just because you don't understand what your parents are saying doesn't really mean that they're not saying anything important, or doesn't mean that they don't know what they're talking about. Most of the time, us children, we undervalue what our parents are saying to us because we feel like, oh, they're old school, or we don't understand them. And then vice versa, parents feel like children really, they don't have much to say, oh, because you're still young, or whatever the case may be. It's I feel like it's very important for both sides to be open to understanding the other, to kind of learning the other's language. So as a child, I should be open to understanding what my parent is saying. If I don't understand, I should be asking for understanding. Hey mom, can you further explain what you're saying, or can you tell me why you're telling me to do XYZ? I don't understand why. And then vice
Mhm.
versa for the parent. If they don't understand the child, try to find ways to understand how the child speaks, or understand why the child is reacting in a certain way. So I think it's a combination of both cultural and um, the age gap or the generational gap.
So, what are some of the things that we say to you guys that you just, like can turn you off, or bring the disconnect? What are the things that we say? Because if we don't hit it, you know, and we're vague about everything, a parent may not understand exactly what they say. That, what, just give me one example, just one of what we say. Is it,
Uh,
am I the
for
one you
me,
are talking to like that?
yeah.
Is that one
I
of the
am your
things?
mother. You can't talk to
Or,
me like
or,
that.
or, yes, yes,
I am your
yes,
father. You can't talk to me like that. Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
But would it be that the way you guys come across too is kind of like when you're trying to tell what you feel, that you don't watch how you say it? Is it possible that that would be? Because I know most of the times you guys are very emotional. What do we say? Uh, how can we do it that we don't break your heart, or we don't keep you guys very far away from us?
I think parents and the child or your young adult child, however it may be, I feel like there might be like a difference in understanding when it comes to respect, because
Mm,
like respect in our culture might be different from how we see respect. And so
okay.
I think from the child's perspective, because you grew up kind of in this like dual culture where you have your parents culture, and then when you go out to school or to work or whatever, there's a different,
Mm,
kind of way of communicating. Because you
mm,
have that exposure, I think kids have an advantage, because you know how your parents are going to receive something, so you know how to tailor what you want to say to like get their attention, if that makes sense. So I think it's about using wisdom about how you communicate. I think Tutu like referenced that as well. Like it's not just me saying something, but how I say it and my
mhm,
tone and the timing. Like there are times where even with my dad, like I know the time to talk to him so I can get what I want
mhm,
or get him to understand where I'm coming from. Same with my mom. It's a different time or a different space to understand when to talk to them. So I feel like we as the kids, we have that advantage so that we can bridge
mm,
the gap with communication.
mm, mm. That's very, very true. That's very true. So how does comparing you guys, what you just said before I go to my next question, is so true. I know one of a guy that came to tell me, and he said, actually it was my son. Let me just put it out there. And he said, Mommy, the first time I went to college, he said, I was going to talk to my teacher and I was prostrating, not all the way down. You know how you guys do like this and say good morning. He said, and they said, what? Are you Chinese? Are you guys greet like Chinese? Chinese people, they bow too. And he said it was like this to the instructor. And he said, do you guys bow like Chinese? Some of those things that we do, it really affect you guys. But now, when we were doing the dry run, we we're talking about comparing you guys with others. How we parents compare you guys with other people. How does that affect you? When we compare you guys with other people, Miss Faithful.
I think when you're being compared to other children, right? You feel less than. You feel kind of like in this space of like unworthiness, and it kind of like breaks you down, um, and kind of like diminishes your value. And I I understand where it's coming from because like each parent wants the best for their child. They want their child to do, the best. And even I think a lot of us can um probably agree where our parents are just like, I was first in my class, I was this and this. So like
Every
everybody,
parent is forced in their class.
yeah, you're like, so who was first? Like all of y'all. So but I think it comes from a place of like us wanting the best. Like even when you see in like statistics, where like Nigerians are very like prominent in education, and we take education very serious. But even in other aspects, that spills over, and like every parent just wants the best for their child. So even though it's coming off like a way where like again our emotions are involved, our parents mean well. Well, most parents most parents mean well. um, so yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack with that, but I think, and two that I'm getting from is that like our parents do mean well, but it's also just the way you say it, because there's a way you can encourage your child that they won't feel less than, um, in terms of like communication, like, hey, um, I see that you're struggling in this area. How can we help you? And I think that's a better way to do it than just say like, don't you see Lakbaja or whatever doing this? Like, why can't you do that? They don't have two heads. So I think there's a better way to communicate that than just like, comparing them to another person.
Yeah, anybody can say that. Okay.
And I'd like to piggyback off of what she's saying.
Mhm.
Really, when let's say if a child, especially this usually happens when it comes to school. If a child is not doing as well as other students, the parent is, usually comparing them. Oh, what about this classmate, or who got first? Um, and I think that it's important for the parents to understand that the child also sees how they did. So it's not as if we're just oblivious to the fact that, okay, we didn't necessarily come first, right? So to reiterate that and to say, oh, see how so and so is doing, see how so and so is doing, it kind of puts you down even more than you already were. It's kind of like being kicked when you're already down. Um, for me, if I didn't do as well as I know I should have, I'm the kind of person, I'm already telling myself on the inside, like, Tutu, you could have done better. You could have done this, you could have done that. Then to have my parent now point out the next person or the person next to me, especially if it's a friend or if it's someone close, to me that's doing that did or is doing better than me, it kind of, makes you go down on yourself even more than you already were. So I think it's just kind of like adding fuel to the fire. It doesn't really do much for the child in terms of like encouragement. It really just kind of hurts more than it does good. So
Mhm.
I wanted to actually
Yeah.
say something, Mom, because this brought it to my attention. Like
Right.
when we're talking about
Go ahead.
comparison,
Everybody can say something on this one because I know it's a sensitive matter.
yeah, like when it comes to comparison as it relates to like school, I feel like even sometimes our parents, they want to try and like gear us towards certain career paths, like be a doctor, a nurse, an engineer, accountant, and those are the only things that are available. So it's like if they don't gear towards that, it's like you didn't succeed. It's like I think parents can really like maybe pay attention to their child's interests and kind of nurture them in that way. Like I'm not saying you shouldn't tell them the truth in terms of there are some lucrative jobs and careers that you should be exposed to and understand that they're available. But if they say they want to do something else, like don't discourage it and be like, well, what kind of career is that? It's not a doctor, it's not an engineer. What, you don't have any status, like it doesn't, it's not useful. Because to me, it's if you have a passion and a skill and a talent in an area, then you can make it work. Like I think that's also a difference between like our generation and like previous generation, is that
Right.
they'll stay in a job or a career that maybe they're not passionate about, but they know there's good money. So
There
like
you
I'm
go.
gonna stay there. But we're like, what feeds my, yeah, what feeds my passion? What feeds my interest? What's my purpose? Like we're more so connected with the meaning and the why. Like why am I doing something? So I think parents can encourage their kids to kind of develop their interests, and if it materializes into a career that's different from what they are used to, kind of being open to hearing them. So
Samuel, I want to hear what you have to say because I know you were the one that really brought that up during the dry run. But this is it. And I would like to talk, but for us as parents, because I want every child, every young adult that is listening there to know the reason why we do it. Most of the time, we are thinking of how would the what how would tomorrow be? How would this person be able to um, manage themselves, live a better life. And then some of it stems from comparison of, okay, if my child is not doing well, what would my friends say about my child? You understand? So there's this
Yeah.
push of what would other people say, and it moves us to, those two things moves us to do what we do. Like somebody asks you, what is your child doing? And then you said, he's a is maintenance guy. We will just like, how would this maintenance guy be able to pay their bills and maintain, buy food? How would they be able to, get married? And we will be thinking for you guys. You understand? You guys want satisfaction, but we want money.
Okay.
We want the status. You guys want satisfaction. We want status.
We want both.
That's what we're thinking. How- how- you want both. You want money and
Yes.
satisfaction. We'll be thinking of,
Yes.
how can we? How is it possible? How can this child make it? How would they pay their bills? How would they eat? I mean, all those things will be running through our minds. And the only three professions were four that we know is really, really in our generation that will bring pride to the parents is what we introduced to you guys. But go ahead, Samuel. I see you shaking your head.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead. Oh, okay. You want to
Oh no,
speak?
yeah, I'll let Timmy go first.
Okay.
No, I think so. As I'm listening, right, there's a lot of things that are
Right.
coming to my mind in
Right.
terms of like resources, right? And I
Right.
think most of us that are here versus like our parents' generation, we grew up in a place where resources are available. So
Mm,
we expand on what exactly are our interests because we know that there are resources available versus like someone in Nigeria, right? They have to know somebody to know somebody to know somebody, right? It's very scarce that somebody from the village will just like make it like this, right? But
mhm,
probably somebody here in America from the ghetto, they can probably start their like business on the corner store on a corner of a street, and like they boom, somebody picks them up. So I think like the resources available in terms of like what we get into is also there, right? They say like America's a
mm,
land of opportunity. So we're able to browse or like think about the many possibilities. And even when Nigerians come here, they're just like, oh, education, I can be the best of it because the resources available. So I think that's also maybe a disconnect or like where we can see like the differences is in our generation.
mm. Okay. Yes. Someone. Did I lose you in a moment? No. Someone, did I lose you? Okay. Go ahead. Did I lose you somewhere? All right. Anybody can take it. Anybody can take it. To me, we're just talking about, you know, communication, how we compare each other, how we parents compare you guys with other people. But somewhere it's your turn. I think I have you back now, right? Amen. All right. To me, you can jump in until I have somewhere to get.
Okay, good morning, Ma. Good morning, everyone.
Good
In
morning.
regards to comparison, really, I just think it's a way of telling a child that they are not good enough. And I know that's
Mm,
not the intention behind it. When parents do it, I think they just do it to inspire children to be better by saying, okay, look at this person. They're doing these amazing things. You can do it too. But sometimes it sends the wrong signal or the wrong message to a child. So that's pretty much what I have. And I think parents can just help us by, magnifying our strengths, capitalizing on our strengths, and encouraging us to improve on those areas that we're lagging behind. So I think that's the antidote to comparison, really, because it inspires competition. You're trying to tell us, look at this person, they are doing well. But at the end of the day, we find ourselves competing with that person, and that's not the intention. So
That is so good.
Mm.
Yeah.
amen. we are, we are trying to understand our kids, people. We are trying to understand what is in their mind, what they are thinking. Somewhere you gotta say what you want to say, because I see that your mic is like going off and on. But are you on
Yeah,
now?
I don't.
Are you on now?
Yeah, I'm on. I think I'm on.
Okay.
Can you
Yes,
hear
I
me
can
now?
hear you. Yes,
Yeah.
I can.
What I was gonna say is that there is a lot more opportunity, as Faithful said before. There's a lot more opportunity over here. Whereas like back home in Nigeria, like there's only certain things you can do to actually prosper. Meanwhile, over here we can do a small job, a small business, and that business grows and grows and grows and grows and grows and gets to the point where
Hmm.
you actually make it for yourself. And I think
Right.
that's where the thing of wanting to do what is for you comes out, because it's doing something you enjoy, right?
Right.
It's doing something that it's not a task for you. You're making money and you're making it, but you're doing it as you enjoy it. You're not doing it because
Right.
you're forced to do it. And I think that's where the
Right.
difference is with that. So when you actually compare and you say, okay, this guy is doing medicine and you're doing jar making, but at the end of the day, the person that's doing jar making, we have to understand that the person that's doing jar making can make it just as well as the person that's at the doctorate level doing medicine, or doing engineering or being a lawyer. You can make
Right.
it your
Right.
jar making business. We have to have this wide spectrum of a mind that we can make it with anything. And I think that's just what's missing with the African mentality a little bit. That they just believe, okay, just get into being a medicine doctor, or just get into it by engineering or lawyer, being a lawyer. So there's just different ways that we can actually make it big. And once we understand that, I feel like there will be a little bit that disconnect will be a little bit filled in, and it'll be a much more of a connection between us and our parents.
Okay. On this topic and any other topic right up, especially on this topic, because there is every parent will come to meet this case, one way or the other with their children. Even if your child is a little baby now, one day you will come and meet. How can we as parents now foster an environment where we can have this discussion with you guys, that you guys can be open, you know, with us, whatever you're going through? How can we've talked about, what we're doing that is not right, what you guys are doing that is not right, what we are doing that is not right. But how can we now come to this intimacy that we can now have this discussion, especially when it comes to education or whatever. How can we now bring that to play?
Mommy, I think it's about like being vulnerable, like parents sharing
Mhm.
their own experiences, because sometimes maybe from the child's perspective we feel like our parents can do no wrong, and like they can't understand because they haven't gone through what we've gone through. But regardless of the
Mhm.
time or the season, like whatever we've gone through, they've gone through a variation of it. It might be different, it might be a different time in history, or it might be a different time that they experienced, but the underlying situation, they've gone through it before. So if parents can be vulnerable and open about what they've experienced, it can make the child more open to sharing what they're going through. And then when the child is open, or when they do share, like not to judge them right away for what they're sharing, or not to shut them down right away,
Mm,
but continue to ask questions to understand.
mm,
I
mm,
think that's a way to help,
mm.
combat some of that misunderstanding.
Mm. You know, what you said is very powerful. I'll let every other person have their time, but I'm just thinking of what we do as parents, that's kind of like cultural in some sense. And the fact is that when somebody is talking, we don't allow you guys to finish talking. We just jump in as if we know exactly what you're going to say and how you're going to end your sentence. Does that bother you guys? Really? You know, does it bother you guys?
Yes.
I catch myself one or two times when I do it. So my children are on the platform, so they can tell you. One or two times I catch myself. when they are talking. It's as if I know exactly where you're going, then I just cut it. You know, I give answers. Eh, this thing, I know I'm not talking about marriage, it affects marriage too. It affects relationship, it affects communication in any level. When you begin to think that you know what the other person is saying, and you are giving the answer based on what you know, not on what they are saying. Because if you hear them out, you'll be able to know exactly what they are trying to say. Does that affect you guys in any form, any way, any shape?
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
definitely does. I believe that the kind of rule where you should listen to understand, like you said, it applies to different types of relationships, and I think even in the parent child relationship it applies. So when you are trying to explain yourself as a child and your parent is cutting you off, it does give you the impression that your parent is not trying to understand you, like you
Mm,
said, because maybe the parent will always already feel that they know what you're going to say. So
mhm,
when they cut you off, it's like, okay, well, maybe that's wasn't where I was going. Maybe I wanted to say something else, but you've already cut me off. So it's like, okay, my parent is not even trying to understand me. They already feel like they know where I'm going or what I'm going to say. So I think it's important for the parents to kind of let their child know that, okay, I am trying to understand you. Because when I think as a child, when you feel like your parent is not trying to understand you,
mhm.
then we also become closed off and we don't really want to understand the parent.
You shut down. Yes.
We shut down. So I think it's important to in every conversation, in every relationship, to listen to understand as opposed to like listening to respond or listening to you know cut in. Yeah.
first. You know what I mean? Like let them finish and then, speak. Like just so that it's not like, well, I knew what you're gonna say, I knew what you're gonna do. It's like just even if you know what they're going through, you know what they're gonna say, let them finish, let them get
Yeah.
everything out, and then you be like, okay, I hear you, I understand. Now let me add my 2 cents in there. So
2 cents. Mm, mm. Very, very good. How does our tone of with discussion with you guys, how does it affect you? Because I don't know if any
Mhm.
one of you have been to the country where I come from. Even on the street we yell. Whatever we do, we yell. So in our form of communication, how does it affect you guys, really? How does it affect you guys? We know Southside cannot play loud music like we do. In every street you go, you hear people playing music. So how does that affect you? How does that affect you guys? I mean, the volume of our, even when we're having discussion with you and the discussion is not going right, how does it affect you? The way we're talking about intimacy, right? How can we break that barrier, that the way the pitch by which we discuss um, with you guys um, will not be a barrier into, you know, between us. Will not be a barrier to our intimacy.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
I
mommy.
think. Oh,
Go ahead.
no, no, no. Go ahead, Tumi. Go ahead.
Okay. I definitely think tone plays a lot of roles in the way we, communicate in the parent-child relationship, and even in communication, like speech classes. They teach us. These are the things they teach us. The pitch, the sound, the tone of your voice. So
Yes.
definitely a calm, soothing tone, an understanding tone makes me know that you really want to listen to me. You really want me to
Mm,
be open. So the tone definitely fosters that relationship between the parent and the child. And I know
mm,
sometimes it's hard for our parents because they are the parents, of course. But just just pretty much coming down to that person's level. Because there is a tone that our friends use, in
mm,
communicating with us. So if you
mm,
really want to come down to our level, you have to meet us right where we are by, speaking our language and saying it right, using the right tone, the right volume, the right
mm,
pitch.
mm,
I don't know if that
mm.
makes
Thank
sense,
you.
but
It makes plenty of sense. Miss Faithful, you were going to say something.
in terms of like how you're communicating with people. And I think back to what Tutu was saying about listening to understand versus to respond. And I think that even with the culture that we've grown up in, it's like, like you said, like back in the village, everybody's doing a yelling match and people don't know the difference. But when you come to, well, in Nigeria, yeah, right. In Nigeria, yeah. Even when they're doing like their bargaining in the market, everything is loud. So everybody's talking on the top of their voice. But then when you come to America, your teacher's talking to you like this, so like you're better understanding of like what they're speaking of. So I think tone plays a lot of roles in everything. It also determines on how I'm going to respond, right? Because if someone's yelling at me, either two things can happen, right? I'm either going to yell back or um, I'm going to shut down, right? And I think that's important because if we're both yelling, nobody's understanding each other. But even if there's one over the other, if I'm shutting down, I'm still not listening to you. So I think tone plays a lot. The role of the tone plays a lot in the discussion. Like Tumi said, like if you're talking to me with a soothing voice or even low, where I can understand you and you can understand me, it will better foster an environment where I can be open. And I know that one, you're not belittling me with your tone when you're talking to me. So I think tone plays a big role in
Mm,
it.
mm. Samuel, I see you. Oh, go ahead, go ahead. But I wanted, but go ahead. Then I will ask Samuel what I want to ask. You are the king of the whole lady, so I put you on the spot. I'll put you on the spot all like all I want and all I can. But go ahead too.
Quickly add to what Tammy was saying, because your question, one of your questions that you asked was, how does that affect us? When
Mm-hmm,
you all are yelling,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
um, and I think that it makes not only the conversation, but it makes the relationship more rigid. It's very the outlook that you now have on your parents. If your parents are always yelling at you, it changes. And I think, to what Tumi was saying, when we relate with our friends, when we relate with our associates, because the tone is a lot lower, you feel calm. There's a calm feeling to it. It's easier for you to let your guards down and speak. But when it's a yelling match, or when it's just, maybe your parent is not hearing you out and they're just yelling over you, it pretty much brings those walls up to where you don't want to open up. It makes you close, because now my outlook on not only the conversation, but my outlook on my parent and how my parent treats me, or how my parent looks at me, is now a lot more rigid. And I think it's important, um, to foster a relationship of friendship, to an extent. I think parents should always be parents, right?
mm-hmm.
There's some boundaries that cannot be crossed when it comes to the parent-child relationship, but I think there should also be a level of friendship between parent and child, which will, foster that environment where a child can feel, a lot easier to open up, to the parent.
Very well. I'm so glad you balanced that out because I was going to jump. Are we parents or are we friends? But I'm, g- I'm glad you balanced it up that there are some boundaries we can't cross. Now, Samuel, this is what I was going to ask you because we keep talking about, um, you know, how our tone is different from the tone of our friends. Would that be the reason why we find your generation listening to your friends more than the parents? That you listen to what your friends tells you. I mean, what they say matters to you than what us here. Are we losing you guys to your friends because of our tone and our mode of our way of approach? Or what? Because it hurts if you guys are listening to your friends over us. It's like who get back to you? I carried you for 9 months. You know, they would be, we start telling all those stories. They don't even know you. They don't. And sometimes we see more to you than your friend sees. So where's the disconnect? How can we connect back? Is it our tone that is, like sending us to you guys to listen? Because sometimes we get agitated and afraid of what might happen to you. After somewhere, anybody can get in. This is a very important discussion, and I don't want it to sweep under the rug. Yes, Mr. Goba Lakes.
Yeah, I really feel that tone does play a big factor, and in especially listen to your friends and listen to your parents. I think it plays a big factor because I don't know about anybody else, but personally, I feel like this is just common with everyone. No one likes to be yelled at, especially when you're talking to someone. It's just it's not nice being yelled at because you put up that defense as Faithful said and as Tutu has said, you put up that wall immediately. As soon as you're getting yelled at, it's just like, oh, why are you yelling at me? Like I didn't even I'm trying to come to you, trying to speak to you, and now you're straight up yelling at me, yelling at me, yelling at me. And I think it's just something that our parents don't really just guess because even over here in Ireland, we hear some of the Irish guys saying to us, "Ah, your parents are always shouting, yo," and we're just like, "No, they're not really shouting. This is the best way of being friendly. This is the way of talking to us. This is normal. This is actually normal for us." Like, and they was like, "Why are your parents angry? Like, when they're speaking, they're just always angry and like, and we're always just like, it's okay that like we understand where they're coming from, but now it comes back to a thing of now listening out now. So because your friends now would actually let you finish your sentences and let you finish everything, or you can run to your friends. You can even talk to your friends for hours and hours and hours. They will not speak on the phone. They'll be giving you the non-verbal nods, the yeah, yeah. They'll be listening to you, and that gives you a bit more of a yeah, okay, I can actually speak to this person, and that's where you can get the more value out of. You feel like, okay, I can value this person more. I can value what this person is gonna say to me because they've let me finish what I'm saying. They let me finish where I'm coming from. They've let me like actually communicate myself fully to them, and then they've let me speak. So I feel like yeah, it's a huge thing for parents, man, and for kids, man.
So we lose you guys to your friends like that.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
we lose a
I
lot
wouldn't
of
say
us.
you guys lose us though. I wouldn't say you
I
lose
say
us.
Huh? Say that
I
again.
I wouldn't say.
You're speaking too much American English. Say it in a way that African lady like me will understand.
I'm saying I don't think that you guys technically lose us, right?
Okay.
There was one thing that Samuel said that's like really important about value, right?
Mm,
And like
mm,
that is important in any relationship, whether it is friendship or mother daughter or children parent, whatever. Value is very important because it determines how I respond to you, right? If I don't see that you value me, right, there's probably the chance that whatever you're saying to me was probably going one ear and going out the other. So when you're talking to your friends, you can see that they value you, right? There's some things that like even Samuel said about like I could talk to them for hours because they value the friendship, they can see value in it versus like completely being shut down, shut off. So I think value is like very key because if they value you, that's somebody you're going to run to all the time. So I think that's, I don't know, in terms of what I see, I don't think you guys lose us. I don't think you guys technically lose us. Um, so,
but emotionally we lose you.
okay, that's
With
fair.
by
That's
intimacy,
fair.
intimacy we lose you. We lose you
That's
guys.
fair.
And that is every parent want their child to talk to them. Every parent. You just want to have a good communication with your child, sit one on one and come, and it hurts when we see that we can't get through and you understand what I'm saying. And that's the reason why we're staying a bit on this topic, because it really widens the gap between us and you guys when we can't like communicate in such a way that uh, we can hear you guys and you guys are not really angry with us. You know, sometimes the way you guys come up with us too is kind of like it's like snappy. And what would be okay to me? Say you are raising your head and shaking your, what is it that will make you guys just snap before we say it? You just snap at us. What is it?
Thank you, mommy. I was actually going to say something about that. I think sometimes parents are quick to get offended by our tone more than our
Mm,
friends. You know, with your friends, you can be yourself. You can say it exactly the way you feel. But with parents who you're not even raising that voice, you're just raising your head, and they're already saying, okay, lower that voice. Now you're so you know how parents can be. So I think to foster this relationship, parents need to also cut us some slacks and just give us an opportunity to release the emotions. Let's get everything all out, and then we can fix the lapses. So
But to balance it up, can I really say that on both sides we really need to calm down, right?
right.
Because for us parents, remember we're talking about the culture where we grew up, and you guys are coming trying to, throw all your emotions, and the way you're trying to, you are, I mean, everything is going high, everything, and then we will come back high too, right? So
Right.
on both sides, really, we really need to calm down just to foster that communication. We're trying to understand how can we be intimate, right? That is what we're doing right now. How can we be intimate? How can we be, be closer in our relationship, in our discussions, in our I'm going to throw a topic here. I know we didn't prepare for all of that, but I see that today, the life, not lifestyle, but the everything is free for all. Everything is free for all in your generation. That I would say tell you that scares us as parents. When I was growing up, I have to tell you this. We only had paid phones, where you put coins, right? That's all we had. We only had, if there's a rich man in the neighborhood, if you really want to use a phone with the string, you have to go to the rich man. Can I use your phone to call my, you know? And that's what we had in our generations, especially paid phones. But today, even a, 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 a child in the elementary school have a cell phone. What they see on the cell phone, what you know what you guys see with social media scares us, and it determines how you see yourself, the life you live, and everything. So are we being overprotective when I need you to really see where we're coming from, and that's the reason why I explained everything like that. Are we being overprotective uh, when we start saying, please watch what you do, and when we start seeing our children change because of the way they are, because social media can really tell you you are not beautiful when you are very gorgeous, right?
Mm,
So
yeah.
stepping into that, how can we help? And how can we foster intimacy in discussion before a child falls out of the line? What can we do?
I think personally for me, I think the best form of protection is being, honest with the child from the get-go. You don't let, for me, I wouldn't let my kids find out something outside and then I'm trying to correct it inside my house. Because I feel like when that's already happened, they've already got in their understanding from outside. They've already kind of been exposed to from the outside. So when you kind of want to correct it inside, it's like, but I already kind of know what's going on. So why are you trying to tell me otherwise? That kind of way. So I would say the best point of protection for them is actually being honest with them from the get go and telling them these things are outside. These are the things that you're going to find outside. These are the things you're going to see outside. And then it forms that bit of, you know, like for me, it's gonna be like my mom and dad trust me. They want me to understand where they're coming from because they're showing me these things, but they're telling me the do's and the don'ts. They're telling me don't go to this side. These things are outside. They don't let me find out with my friends. They don't let me find out with my peers in school. But they're telling me this is life. Life is hard. There's things out there that you're not gonna really like. There are things out there that you're not gonna really enjoy, but these are the things you shouldn't go to, and these are the things you should go to. So I feel like the best form of protection is actually speaking to them early and letting them know that okay, these are the things outside, but you're a child of God. You don't. They always say, don't forget the child of who you are. Yeah.
Mm.
So just don't forget the child of who you are. That's just it. So yes, man.
So bringing it up to you guys early, you know,
Mm,
will help. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Anybody can jump into that.
because I think that's when it becomes overprotective. So I'll just use the example that you gave, mommy, about children having phones. um, I think that especially in our generation, everything is on the phone now. Everything is
Mm,
on the phone,
mhm,
even to
mhm,
some people's careers. If they don't have a phone, their
mhm,
career is dead. You know,
mhm.
and you have young people these days that are creating apps, and that's how they become successful. That's how,
Right,
so
right.
if you completely shut them down or tell them you can't have a phone or you can't do this, um I think it separates them from a level of progression within society.
Mhm,
But then I think if you guide them in how to use these things, and I think part of it, again, going back to the generational gaps, our parents are not as versed in these kind of things as we are in terms of like cell
mhm,
phones and stuff like that. So most of the
mhm.
times, you all don't even understand what we do on the phone. It's just like you just see us on our phone all day texting or looking at pictures, and
Right,
I think
right.
that's part
And
of
we
what.
jump into your room and say, "What are you looking at? What are you?" Is you understand our concern? But go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's part of the concern, is because it's just like, when you do eventually talk to the child, you realize that they're very exposed, to stuff that
Mhm,
to things that are going
mhm,
on, and the way they got exposed to it was, because of phone and all that stuff. So I think it's important for parents to try a little bit to, understand what are the things that are on that social media, what's on the phone, what are the kids looking at, and then try to guide them in the way to using it well, as opposed to them just, seeing whatever they want to see and taking it as it is. How can my child use their phone to their benefit, use it to help themselves, as opposed to them just being exposed to anything and just taking everything from social media, because everything on there isn't good, but there are some good aspects. So I think it will be overprotective if when you cut them off completely or say no, you can't have a phone. I think
mhm.
that's the point where it becomes overprotective.
I remember when my baby now was in what first grade or something. Then I was kind of like being I remember Tutu that you called me and you said, "Mommy, all these things you think we don't know about, and you are trying to say, no, 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 don't, you can, no, no, no." And you told me, you said, "Mommy, when we were in third grade, they were teaching us about sex, they were teaching us about everything, and you are saying, no, no, you can't. If you go close, then this one will happen. If you go this," and we're not really explaining. I remember that you tried to like pull me back and say, "No, don't do it to Michael, please. Just let him know what it is. Let him just tell him the truth that this is what it is, and this is." Does that really can that hamper you from being empowered to know what it is? Because someone said something that is very important, that us parents like teaching you guys at the beginning, like letting you guys know at the beginning, rather than shying away from it. How does that help? How can we do it better in such a way that you will we will not, like I know Tutu said that we should balance it up and look for a way, not really taking it away. But what other way can we do it in discussing with you guys that will not make you run to your friend, because running to your friend is not the best, right? What can we do?
I think it all goes back to honesty, really.
I think it's
Saying
about
it, saying it as it is.
oh, sorry, go ahead, Tunde.
Sorry about that. So really, I just wanted to say it's saying it the exact way it is, calling a
Mm,
spade. You know,
mm,
that openness and honesty would
mm,
help us know that you're being genuine with us and you have an expectation of us and you trust us enough to tell us the
mm,
truth. And we don't want to disappoint you, really.
mm. So honesty will be part of us telling you what we experienced ourselves, rather than telling you we were angels when we were growing up, right?
Yes,
That was
yes,
part
ma'am.
of the honesty.
Yes, ma'am.
Amen. Yes, Miss Oguro, you wanted to say something. Thank you so much, Michi.
They use social media almost like as an escape, or they use it as like
Mm-hmm.
like a way to be like, I can see like happy people on social media. I can see like happy marriages or have like relationship goals. Like people are always looking to social media to see like the best and brightest of things. And so I feel like sometimes I think parents can, in like a way to combat that is for parents to instill confidence and instill like a high self-esteem in their children at a young age, so that when they if and when they do get on social media and they see these type of things, they're not comparing themselves and saying, well, my life is not like that, or I don't have this type of thing. And I also feel like it's important that parents, the Bible says, train a child in the way in the way of the Lord, and then when they grow up, they won't depart from it. I feel like that is so important to start young, so that they have their identity in Christ as opposed to identity in these things that they're seeing. And then there was also something that, even from the sermon that we listened to last Sunday, about, if your home is not happy, you should create a happy home, so that your kids don't feel like they have to escape into social media to get that happiness, if that makes sense. So like creating a real sense of happiness in your home as opposed to the fake one on social media. So I think that is something that parents can do, and recognize that sometimes kids are going to social media to get an escape or to see what's possible. Like they might be in a home where a marriage is broken, or a marriage is there's tension, and so they look at social media and they see, oh, the husband did all these things for the wife, and the wife loves her husband and it's happy, and it's like, oh, I want something like that, I want my home to be like that. And so because they don't see it in reality, they want to look at the unreal one that kind of seems real. Does that make sense?
Right.
So it's like, I think parents can help by building self-esteem early, instilling godly principles into them early, so that
Right.
even if they do stray away,
Can you guys hear me now?
yes.
Okay. So, before we close, taking you guys to service, to church, how does it help? How does it help? Taking you guys to church. Is it a plus? Because, you guys must know our Jesus, right? So what will make you guys not come with us to church?
Ooh, that's
I think that's a tough question, mommy. I really do think that's a tough question. Because
Because serving God is very important. Serving God is very, very important. So what do we do?
yeah, it's yeah. Oh.
Okay. Is it
I
me
think
that
we
is
can hear you
breaking up?
now.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was saying, I think that's a very difficult question.
You don't want to serve
Because
our Jesus?
no, 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 no.
Okay.
That's definitely not it. I think a lot of us have, I think a lot of us know that the intentions of going to church is great, but I think there's kind of a twofold thing, right? Where if you grow up in a household where church is like, you see your mom praying, you see like the fruits of this church that they're going to, that's a great thing that they do want to come to church with you and everything. But I also believe that when we get older, we're able to decipher what are healthy environments for us. So the church we go to, in terms of like discipleship and all these things, also plays a factor as well. So it's not that maybe they don't want to go to your church with you. They probably just want to maybe go to a different church where they're able to like really grow in their own Christianity, because it's not that your church is bad, but probably they need something that will develop them in a different way, if that makes sense.
I'd like to add to that. I feel like I'm always adding after Tammy, but um, I think
Is it
that
because you are a sister?
I don't know, maybe. I think that part of it is the way that church was introduced to us. I think for many of us, when we were younger, you started going to church because your parents said so, right? It wasn't because, oh, I learned about Jesus and I love Jesus at 5 years old and I'm so happy to go to church with my parents. It was like, sit down there, we're going to church, make sure you behave yourself kind of thing. So when we get older, sometimes that immediate desire to go to church ourselves isn't just there. It doesn't just show up, but because when we're younger, we're just told you have to go to church because I said so, because because me and your dad, you can't stay home, you can't do that. So I think for parents, I think it would be very good to try as much as possible to help your child to understand why they're going to church, as opposed to just because we said so, just because we're your parents. Because when they get older, some, especially around the teenage years, you get quite a bit of rebellion, and the child no longer wants to go to church. Not that they don't love Jesus, but they no longer want to do what their parents are telling them to do. And part of that is, oh, my parents told me to go to church, so I don't want to go to church anymore. So I think it's important for parents to help children have that independent love for Christ, the independent love to go to church, help them see why it's good to go to church themselves, why it's good to have that desire themselves, as opposed to, oh, just because I said so.
I'm glad you ended it like that because I wanted to say, what is wrong with our Jesus? So, but I'm glad you balanced it up, that helping you guys to know early that Jesus is Lord. I mean, living it out in front of people. Not that we are perfect, we can't be perfect, but at least as much as we can, showing you guys Jesus in a very personal way, rather than telling you guys you gotta go, right? But letting you guys know why you have to go. Am I getting it? So this is our last question because we have to close, our time is up. Um, this I asked during our dry run, and I told you that everybody must have something to say. This is where my Nigerian parents' voice comes out. But really, I'm encouraging everybody to have something to say in this. Knowing what you know now as an adult, if you are to go back into your childhood and do anything differently, what would it be and why? I mean, when it comes to us parents, what have we told you now that you're adult? Because all of you on the platform, you're adults. Now, knowing what you know now as an adult, what would you have gone back to do differently, that we told you guys? And yeah, anybody can start. King, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Like I said before, the one thing I probably change is I'll probably value my parents a bit more. I value what they have to say. I value when they say the things to me, those things to me, because I said before, like I see where my friends are at, and I see where I am right now, and I see there's a gap because they've told me, okay, yeah, don't go to this person, don't be friends with this person. And I've taken that on board. I can actually value what they've said now because I can see it. When I was a child, I didn't really see those things. I was like, why they not let me be friends with him? He's like me. He goes to the same school as me. He plays football like me. He plays basketball like me. So why can't I be his friend? But my parents had the foresight to see in front and say, okay, this guy is not particularly good for you. He might not be good for you in the long run. He might be your friend for a stage, but for the long run, I just want you to just be careful. So I would actually just value my parents a bit more and value what they have to say, because in my adulthood now, I'm seeing the fruits of what they've said to me. So that's just one thing I'd yeah, change. I'd just value them a bit more.
show my parents grace. I think in terms of like all of what we talked about, like our parents really just want the best for us. And whether or not or how we receive it, I think they have great intentions for what they tell us. And it's up to us to receive um, what they truly mean. So I think for me, I would probably give more grace to my parents and give more grace to myself too as well, because we're all still learning. Life is full of surprises. We're all still learning. Nobody gets a manual on anything, right? We all like we don't go to school to be a parent or be a child. We're also learning. Everybody's different, so we're learning different characters and different, people. So I show grace to everybody.
Appreciative of their efforts in providing for me as a person. Because my parents were hard workers when I was growing up, but I feel like I didn't show that much appreciation for everything they did. And of course, for the way they were always being there, you know, being there for me every step of the way. And secondly, I definitely should have enjoyed being a child more, enjoyed my childhood more. If I could turn back the hands of time right now, I want to be a child again and just enjoy being a child, enjoy not having any bills to pay, any decisions to make, any responsibilities to shoulder. So, yes,
I would say that if I was young again, or if I had the chance again, I would spend more time trying to get wisdom from my parents. Now realizing that most of your life is spent as an adult, I would have preferred to get more knowledge, get more wisdom, on the things of life, as opposed to just, feeling like I knew what I was doing, and, keeping things to myself. Not only getting more wisdom from my parents, but also, having more conversations, more open conversations with them. So, yeah.
Um, I would say that just looking back at my parents and just their story of how, they came from a different country and coming here and basically building from the ground up, I would say that I wish I would have taken more risks like them, because they, made decisions and did things that helped them to grow. And I felt like because they took risks and were able to create like a comfortable environment for us children, it kind of made me a little comfortable, like not stepping out of my comfort zone, not like capitalizing on certain opportunities. So it's like I wish I would have learned more from them and been more of a risk taker, because they've done a lot of things that help them financially, that help them career wise, and they weren't afraid to kind of step out and do new things, especially in a new country, learning the new system, learning a new way of life, and they were able to come out on top. So I wish I would have like kind of not been so sheltered or not leaned into that comfort so much, like, oh, mom and dad build this for me so I can just relax and just, but I wanted to be able to build and continue to build on the foundation that they laid. So it's not too late, but I wish that I would have like realized that a lot sooner, that they took risks so that we could be comfortable in life, and just appreciating that and building on it. So
Hmm. Excellent, excellent, Miss Dolapo Guro, Miss Tunmi Falano, Miss Faithful, Talabi, Mrs. Adetutu Lawal, and the king of the whole group, Samuel Ogobabidele. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. You guys did so well. And I know every parent listening out there will know, they will, glean from you. Get what? Understanding. I will close this by reading the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 21. The Bible says that the wise heart will be called prudent, and sweetness of the lips increasing learning. And verse 23 says, the heart that is at the heart of the wise teaches his mouth, and heart's learning to his lips. Verse 24 says, pleasant word for both us, the children, and the parents. Pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones. I pray for you guys and us, the parents, that we will have a good intimacy, into us, see, have good time of communication. But thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I so much appreciate you guys. You make me very, very proud. The Lord be with you, and may you excel in all your ways in the name of Jesus Christ. So that is the end of our program, Another Pastor's Wife TV. Let's talk. This is your host, Pastor Mabel Talabi.